Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Dave, just confirming if you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Thank you. So everyone, please let us calm down. Bring out our notebooks and pen, promises and conventions to be an insightful session. I think more than what we had previously. So Olamide, if you can hear us, you might want to.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can I start?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Let me just start sharing my screen so we can get started. Oh, shit. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Olamide Ilori. I am a UX researcher here at Autodesk on the DX research team. And today I'll be talking a little bit about what I do, which is UX research in today's digital space. So a little about me. My background is in research, is in psychology, human behavior, and neuroscience. That's what I did my degree in. Then later on, after I graduated, I pursued a career in UX research. So I worked in UX consulting in both design and research. And then later on, I moved into working in telecommunications for a bit. And then I came to Autodesk. And after that, I have just been working here so far, and I love it. And outside work, I am a big pop culture fan. I'm a big podcast fan, and I'm a new swimmer, so I've been learning to swim. So that's a little bit about me. Now, so I'll just go over what I'll be talking about today. So I'm talking about what UX research is, our approach here at Autodesk, and also what are we going through an interactive session, and lastly, I'll have some time for Q&A. So, I think Fatem is here, which is great. Okay, so before discussing what UX research is, let's take a step back and look at what our digital space is. What does that even mean? What does it even look like? So when I say digital space, I'm talking about technology and how people interact with them and through them. It's basically about communication with other people. So when we communicate in today's world, we communicate through our smartphones, tablets, watch, apps, Facebook, Twitter, ebooks, even music. Even this event right now is online in a digital space. So think about the last text that you sent, the last item that you bought online, and you're like, oh, I want to buy this. And all that is in digital space. And with people communicating more and more in this digital space, naturally businesses move there just to leverage that environment. And here at Autodesk, as a UX researcher on the DXC on the DXC team, my role is to understand how customers think, their needs, wants, and behaviors on our digital platforms. It is a crucial process that informs our design process at Autodesk, enabling us to create solutions that are not only functional and visually appealing, but also user-centric. So how do we get this information? When I say UX research, well, who are we researching? What are we doing? How do we get this information? So here are some research methods that we use on the DXC team at Autodesk. Case studies, diary studies, workshops like this, and usability testing. So I'll just go over a few, one being a case study. So when I say case studies, I'm talking about research that has already been done. And the interesting thing is that the more a bigger company is like Autodesk or like Apple or Microsoft, nothing is truly ever new, right? And most projects research has already been done on it in the past. And the appropriate thing to do is actually to look at the previous research that's been done. What were the conclusions? What were the hypotheses? What were the findings? And then build on that. We now go check that information. Is it still correct? Does it still make sense? Are people still behaving this way? Are people still viewing us like this? And that's how case studies work. We look at previous research that has been done. We see how we can improve it. We build on it, update the information, and present these findings to our stakeholders. Now, depending on the project timeline, the type of deliverables, it plays a role in the kind of method we choose. So if the timeline is short, maybe a workshop or diary study might not be the best because it takes time. A case study is probably better, or a usability test might be even better. Now, I personally do a lot of work in usability testing, so let's talk about that. Now, usability studies in research is very common and very popular, and it's a research method that is used in UX, user experience, to evaluate how easy a design is to use from the perspective of an end user. Now, when I say end user, I'm talking about you. You on your phone, you that's going to buy something online, you that clicks on that product, or you that's using the app, you are all end users. The moment you decide, I like that top, I'm going to buy it. You click on the link, you look at the product description, you say, this is nice, let me see the review. You click on the reviews, you click buy, you put in your credit card information. That entire process validates you as a end user. You are the one using the product. And usability studies help identify usability issues before a product even launches. So when I say product, not just physical product, I'm talking about digital products too, like a website or an app or a finance, anything that is online. So I use that word interchangeably. So they help identify usability issues before the product is launched, or even after the product is launched. So we continue to do routine testing and see if our end users, customers like yourself, you and I, if we truly understand it. And when it comes to how do we even plan a usability test, what are the key things? One, we identify our key objectives. What do we want to get out of this? What do we want to validate? Do we want to check if X, Y, and Z works? Do we want to see if users understand X, Y, and Z? We have to understand basically what is our goal from this. And then we decide on the type of test we're going to do. Are we going to just observe users going through our site, our product, our app? Or are we going to give them tasks for them to do and then tell them, okay, go here, go here, go here, and ask them to share our thoughts. These are all the kinds of decisions we have to make when we're planning a usability test. And after all that is said and done, and we run the test, we then go into the analysis phase. Here, we evaluate the findings that we see. So we start looking at different trends and patterns. Did everyone understand what this menu meant? Did everyone understand the reviews? Did anyone know that you could click on here and see more product information? These are all different things that we check for and see, can the user actually use this product? Can they get to the goal, which tends to be buying something or checking out or something like that? So can they actually get to the end? And it's not a test of the user's mental ability or the intelligence. It's a test of how our products are useful. Can they be useful? Now, some of the benefits of usability studies is that they tend to be user-centric. They show real-time user information as the user is using it. They give us a perspective. Two, like I said before, they can identify issues that may not be apparent to the design perspective. So for example, when a designer does something, it's beautiful, it makes sense, it looks very nice, the colors are there, the brand colors are there, it looks good. Now we have to test it. Can the user understand it? So from a design perspective, it looks good, but from a research perspective, user perspective, can it be useful? So it tends to identify those bugs, and it's easier to snag before the product launches. And then lastly, usability tests tend to be very cost effective because you can run multiple iterations. So thousands of people, not thousands, but like a couple people over time without having to do one-on-one interviews and 45-minute interviews and talking to people. That just takes a lot of time, but it's very, very cost effective. So one of the big applications is that usability studies provide direct input onto how real users use the system. They can evaluate prototypes, they can validate design decisions, act as benchmarks for competitors, and overall, it's just a very good way to test if your product is useful, if it can be used by your end user. Now, from all these tests like I brought up, I put up usability studies, I put up case studies, all these different tests, they can all be used. But one of the interesting things is that when you run these tests, you can pull out very interesting data that is used by other teams outside of research. One of them being personas. Now, personas are fictional characters that, I don't say fictional, but they are somewhat fictional characters that represent different types of users within a target demographic that might use your sites or products, right? So they're a tool of understanding and organizing understanding user needs and behaviors and goals. So think you yourself are a persona for any product you use. You shop online, you buy anything in the store, you're a persona. Personas tend to be just like an aggregated snapshot of customers in different demographics. So you could be like a student as a persona, a parent as a persona, a small business as a persona. These are all different kinds of persona. And personas typically have are created by different specifics. So for example, here we see David Lombaz, and we see that he's a 31-year-old male, he's a creative producer, he has a bachelor's in PR and advertising, and he's single. So that is demographic information about him. And probably about the type of people that would use, like, let's say, a film editing app, right? And when we look at him further, we know that, okay, his goal is to be promoted. He wants to build more relationship with customers. But some of his fears is that he feels overworked, he feels pressured, he gets stressed out by emails, all those kinds of things. And when he wants to make his buying decisions, is that he prefers to gather information online. He believes in product recommendations. He doesn't like long sales pitches. So if this is majority of your target audience, of your target customers, you wouldn't create a website that had like a 30-minute video. This person will not watch it because they don't have the time and they find it boring and strenuous. So what you end up doing is create something like small midgets of infographic with small knowledge-based reviews that they can just look at and get the gist of and then buy. So when you have these kinds of snapshots, information personas, you're able to create your content towards the target audience that you want easily, rather than interviewing people over and over again, because the research already did this for you. And then one of the things is that you can also pull out pain points. You can figure out the frustrations, the problem that typical users would encounter, and then figure out how to leverage those, how to eliminate those so it can be easier for your end user. Overall, personas help teams better understand their users and make user-centered decisions. They provide a common understanding of who the user is and allows us in the team to lead with empathy and insights about their needs. Another big thing that we create from user research is journey maps. Now, a journey map is a visual representation of the user's experience with your service or product or website. And essentially is a story that shows their path from initial engagement to the very end or a long-term relationship. And if you look closely at this image, what we see is someone that wants to buy a birthday present for their friend, right? So that's their motivation. And they're excited, they're happy, they go online, they search birthday store near me or something. And then they click on the first search. They click on it, they look at it, they look at the reviews, that's the product evaluation. And step 5, like, okay, I love it, I'll pay. That is a journey. And one of the good things about identifying these journeys is that they can help us identify pain points. Where in this journey are users getting stuck? Where in this journey can they not find our product? Where in this journey am I losing customers? This is where you're able to identify those roadblocks. Also, they provide a very holistic view of the user experience. By looking at user experience across different touch points, businesses can better understand the user's perspective and improve overall experience. And also, it's a good way of measuring success. It creates success metrics and benchmarks around these journeys. So remember that a journey map is not just steps the users take, but also it's about their thoughts, their feelings, their motivations, and at each very stage. And one good thing about journey maps is that they also show who is responsible for what at each stage. So in the beginning, we have the motivation. We see our user wants to get a birthday cake. They're excited, they're happy. Where would they see the ad for a birthday card or something like that? It's the marketing team at the bottom. In the second, you see that they go on the web search, they want to search for a birthday cake or whatever. And then who's in charge of that whole experience of clicking and finding your apps or your product, the UX team. So it allows us to see who's responsible for each stage. Now, how can we make UX even richer, even better? Well, it is by collaborating with analytics team. So UX and analytics are two sides of the same coin, working together to provide a comprehensive understanding of user behavior and preferences. So the analytics team at Autodesk provide quantitative data about user behavior, such as user engagements, bounce rates, succession rates, conversion rates, all these different things. And you're probably wondering, like, why do I care about these things? Well, they give a number, a data point to all the information that we found. So if, for example, I say, students come to your website and the moment they click on a book they want to buy, they lose interest. They don't buy it anymore. They don't like it. Well, who are the students? How many? What does that look like? Then you go to analytics and they would say, oh, about 45% of students do that. They go on your website and they go on the product page and 80% leave. That is a huge, huge number that can be tackled. That's why analytics and research actually work well together. And it's good to remember that UX research gives us the why, and analytics give us the what. And together they provide a full picture of what are findings of the user experience. Now I have a small interactive session there, and I'm just going to talk about what does good UX research look like? What does good UX look like? Now, this is a page, a website page. And when you first look at it and you don't know what it's about, what do you think this website is about? And you have to say, I don't know, but eventually you look at it more and you're like, oh, it's about coffee or drinks or something. And what makes this a good example of good UX is that one, it's pretty obvious. There's good product placement on the page. The visual weight leans more to the right. So as you're scanning from left to right, you see that your eyes follow to the product, which is the coffee that they have. And then there's also this simple color palettes, everything. Interaction and the icons are pretty easy to understand. And all the menu at the top is broken up into simple language that you can understand. You look at beverage, look for coffee maker, you're like, oh, this is a coffee company. So it's simple, easy to understand. This is the Apple page. What makes this good UX? Well, clean design, easy to understand. The CTA button, the major button, and what they want you to click is in bright blue, so you know where you have to go. All the information is broken down into small chunks that are digestible. So this is a 6.1 retina, strong titanium design. Like everything is broken up into something that you could easily understand. And then lastly, there's the Airbnb page. And what makes this page good UX? Well, one, it's clear what you have to do. It's clear that it's a travel page. They have your where, your check-in, your checkout, your add guests. And they also tell you what you need to do at the bottom, add dates. And then all the pictures are clear, broken up into small chunks. It's not overly crowded. There's not a lot of information. Everything's like organized by what you would like to see. So I look at this page, I say, I want to go to Westboro, New York, and I see that it's 431 Canadian a night. All that information is there. Also, they've also added like something nice that you can see like this, like guest favorites and stuff like that. And so this page is actually a good example of good UX, and it's catered to a very specific population of people that like to travel, like to stay in Airbnbs, and they've given them a variety of different types of places to stay at the very top, which is really cool. And the interesting thing about UX is that you don't know good UX until it's bad. You don't know a good experience until it becomes bad. So in today's digital world, a positive UX experience is not just a nice to have, it's a must have. It directly influences customer satisfaction, retention, and loyalty overall, which overall contributes to business success. Therefore, UX research is not an isolated activity, but rather a strategic business initiative. Investing in UX research can provide high return on your business and enhancing digital experience overall. Any questions? Oh, thank you.
That's question. Hi, Olamide. Someone has a question for you.
Yeah, of course.
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay. My name is Esther, and I am a product manager. So it's very important that, as you said with several examples, user experience is very important. That user experience is taken into consideration, and so user research is really important. But for a new product, right, as a PM, how do you navigate? So data is important, yes. You have your data, you collected your data, you've done your interviews and stuff, you've gotten everything. And then go and give it to your line manager or whoever is going to take the decision. How do you navigate? Oh, I'm ready. This is my data. This is quantitative, qualitative. Everything is ready, and this is what Oga says. How do you navigate that?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for asking. So let me just reiterate your question to you. You're asking that how do you present your data to a higher up? Is that what you're asking?
So how do you navigate all that? Because it's very possible for the product to fail just because you have your data only, right? The chance that the product will fail if you only listen to what the CEO says.
Right.
In my situation, how do you navigate all that?
Okay. Great question. Thank you for asking. So when you're presenting your information to people that are not doing UX or UX research and don't really care, What I like to do advise is that you should present in a matter of business. So you have to link everything back to the business, talk about the business impact. Like for example, you want to launch this product that you have little to maybe no data on it, but you want to launch this to someone that they just want to launch it and you don't want to be blamed for it failing. One, it's not your fault if it fails. Two, you should always link it back to the business impact. Always say that I am presenting this information because we are prioritizing our customers. And when you prioritize your customer, you always say you want to prioritize them because they are the one that will decide whether or not the business will fail or not, or the product or launch will fail or not. Also, I also think that using fail is a very strong word. Let's just say it just didn't do well the first time. And there's always space for improvements. That's why we advocate for research to be like a continuous thing rather than like a stamp of approval. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, yes, you did. Thank you. Also, if you have quantitative and you have qualitative data, but for some reason they are not, how do I say this? They're not the same or they are conflicting. How do you navigate that?
Great question. So if the data is not, if the quantitative data and the qualitative are not agreeing with each other, then it's the UX researcher's job to figure out the why they're not agreeing. And it's probably, you probably have to ask yourself, or the team, you have to ask yourself, were you asking the right questions? So one thing to do is that rather than doing research first and then go meet and then coordinating with the qualitative team or an analytics team, it's good to have those initial meetings first. Like you and the analytics team should come together and decide what can you actually track together. Can they track bounce rates? Because it would be a waste of time if you're testing for something that they can't even check or validate or figure out. So it's good to include them in those meetings from the very jump and be like, this is what we're trying to figure out. Can you actually track this? And then you can agree on the type of testing that you would do. And if it still conflicts, then that's something that you still have to like run again and figure out why it's conflicting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Fukaku So. I'm a product designer. So I'm struggling with more on usability testing. If the company you work at, let's say you've done all research, you've done the qualitative and all, how do we convince stakeholders that there's a need? So most times people always say testing, but many startups don't really prioritize testing. Testing mostly comes in at the end of building the product, which is something that should have happened even from the onset, when you see ideas and all of that. So how do we convince stakeholders? They know about testing, but this is not really a priority to them. And at the end of the day, a lot of these products, they still go back to the beginning because something I would have avoided from the onset. So how do we convince stakeholders and CEOs about why we need testing, and at each point of building products, we need to test users and the products for ourselves, not for users. And
Okay, thank you for asking that question. That's a great question. I think there are three parts. At what point do you start testing, and how do you convince stakeholders? So I'll just start with the first one. It really I think testing can happen in threefold. So in the beginning, like a discovery test to see what customers actually want, if they even need this product, some kind of discovery. They can now do a second round of testing, maybe even a user test or a usability test on plain open wireframes that have not added any color, they have not added anything. They just want to see if you can understand the flow and information that is there. So there's just like, there's no color, there's no branding, there's nothing. There's just the information buckets. Like if it's a bank, they can understand that this is where you need to put This is where like checking accounts, all this thing is. So that's where you can do testing. And at the end, you can also do testing when the product is about to launch. After you've added all the color, all the branding, all the content stuff, it's like basically almost done. And then you can then do like another round of tests. That's 3 rounds of tests. Now, if they don't have time and they're like, oh, we don't want to do testing, we don't really care about all these things, a good way to get the ear of higher ups is to do a competitor analysis. Look at their competitors. The moment you say competitors, everyone ears perks up because they're like, who are we competing with? So when you show competitor analysis and say, this is what competitors are doing, this is what they're doing well, and we can also do that thing. This is what they're also doing really poorly, and this is what we can also leverage and do better than them. Their ears will perk up and they'll be like, okay, maybe this research thing is not bad. And you can show up, you can link that, you can work that into your presentation, to your research, and it could be a more impactful presentation. So I think that would be a good way to start.
I want to say something. So minus the competitors aspect, I'm talking about really testing this product with the users. How are we sure? How are we sure this product is going to sell regardless of we doing our research, we checking out our competitors and all of that? At what point we need to convince them that we need to bring users, those users that will use those new products, even users that are people outside of our targeted audience and also how do we convince them to maybe spend or do a little stuff on testing, because a lot of testing you need to spend too. So how do we convince them to invest in testing with the actual customers?
So you're asking, how do we convince them to test with actual customers?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good question. Let me think about it. Okay, so when we want to convince people that do not care about, not say do not care, but do not prioritize UX research, I want to convince them to test, I think a good approach would just be, you have to really push back and advocate for the user and say that people are not going to use, like, people are going to, if we don't know that they can understand, they're going to use it. So you have to frame your arguments almost like that. Like, if people don't know how to use this product is not going to sell, it's not going to do well. Also, you also have to make note of the kind of people you're bringing in, like the kind of personas, your target audience. Like, you have to make note of those people and be like, okay, for example, we're launching this new bank app or whatever, and the target audience is people that are older, like let's say 45 to 50, might not be the most tech savvy. We need to test this and see that our design, our page or whatever, our product works. So that's kind of how you have to advocate. You have to advocate from the user's perspective. Like, no one's going to use this and understand this if we don't test that they know how to use and understand. You can't just launch something in the air. Marketing cannot do magic. They really can. If I use something and it's not working well, I'm not going to use it again. So maybe that's a way to push back and try. Or you can even try doing like your own sample test. Maybe not with people, but like maybe on your own side, you do like a sample test like for 5, 6 people and show them the results. Like, hey, this is working well, it's not working well. I did a sample test with a small group of people. We need to scale up and we need to do more. That could be a way you can try. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Do we have another question or other thing? We have questions, more questions for them. All right. Thank you, Olamide. Thank you for the session. So I think Fatem can come in now. She can speak.
Guys, you feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Now, do have a nice day. Like,
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Fatem. I'm located in San Francisco, California. It's 10 o'clock in the morning for me, so might be a time difference. I'm a senior software engineer at Autodesk, and a fun fact about me is that I was born and raised in Iran, which is a country that is the neighbor of Armenia, Turkey, and Turkmenistan. So that's a fun fact about me. And bear with me for a second while I share my screen, please. Okay. Okay, so we have this. All right. Are we able to view my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So my talk is going to be about hands-on diversity, belonging, and inclusion. And it's going to be really about how I'm taking action and I'm leading the charge in workplace transformation at my corner of Autodesk. So the outline of my topics, kind of like a rough draft. First, I'll talk about how I ended up at Autodesk. And then I will talk about how I'm leveraging artificial intelligence for my job. Then I will talk about diversity, belonging, and inclusion. And at the end, I will have a portion for question and answer, but feel free to ask questions for the previous talk as well, since there was a lot of interest from product managers. So I came to Autodesk through the internship program. I got a computer science bachelor's degree in 2021. So that means in the height of the pandemic and the coronavirus in 2020, I was the first ever remote cohort of Autodesk. I thought that Autodesk is being super brave and very courageous for still doing their internship program as they had promised in a time when a lot of companies were resigning their offers and saying doing a remote internship program is too much trouble for us. We cannot be flexible. But Autodesk ended up having their internship program in a very global manner. So we had interns in my cohort from Africa, from Europe, and from all over Asia, and from all over United States. And in my internship, what I did, because I'm coming from a computer science background, I combined all my skills as a backend software engineer with being a practitioner of artificial intelligence to create a summer project that actually went into production and was used by my team. So what I do at Autodesk, on the left-hand side, we have Autodesk products. It's honestly a very small subset of all the products that Autodesk offers across different industries. But I work in an internal tools team. So what internal tools means, which must be interested for those of you who want to become software engineers, it's the teams that support not the customers of a company, but the people and the business. So people who are Autodesk employees, they work in teams that are for data analytics. So some of the research teams that you heard about in the previous talk. They also talk about, they also work in workforce management teams. So something like HR and talent acquisition people. We also have teams that support the financials, like the money, how much money do we get paid from our customers and how much of it do we have to spend, let's say, to our employees. They also work in compliance management, which means as a company in Autodesk that is located in United States, we are not supposed to do business with certain countries that break the law. So all these teams that are working to make Autodesk as a functioning company, they have needs for software development and tools that help them do their job in a modern and frictionless manner. So these teams that work at Autodesk, of course, they have the need for artificial intelligence because they want to have access to state-of-the-art AI and now generative AI that comes to the market in a way that is customized and tailored for them and allows them to automate, for example, data-heavy processes. And they want to use AI so that they could make decisions with full scope insights into what the business is doing, or let's say what the workers of Autodesk are doing. And, as an artificial intelligence tools team, what we're really doing is we are modernizing the core business functions of Autodesk. And of course, that means we are hoping to help Autodesk people do their job faster and easier. You will be surprised in how much a company like Autodesk that has been working for 30 plus years kind of forgets about its own functions and gets hyper-focused on the customers. So being part of an internal tools team means that our development cycle is very different than what you heard from the previous talk, right? In the previous talk, you were hearing about, let's do user research, let's create personas, let's see what they want, let's see what works. But for us, if you work in an internal tools team, our first steps start from collaboration, which means that I work with a cross-functional team at Autodesk who has exactly a perfect idea of what they want and what would be helpful for them to use as an application. So I basically sit down with a person and I say, what are your pain points? How can I reduce the time you spend completing a certain task? So then we build, and then they use it, which is what the testing is, and then we go back to collaboration. So this is very different. If you want to work in an internal tools team, I think it's great to have this sort of oversight about what your projects will be as a software engineer and even as a product manager, because in an internal tools team, we also have a need for project managers, product managers, tech leads, and just the exact structure for a product team that will be for the customers of Autodesk. We also have the same needs to help the people of Autodesk. And in my job specifically, because we use a lot of AI libraries, we use Python. So I code mainly in Python, and we use a serverless architecture using AWS services. So depending on the need, we just use different AWS services to create what would be a web application for people of Autodesk to go to. Maybe their job at the website would be to upload data and wait for the process to run. Maybe it would be for them to grab data so that they could submit it into another place, or complete the next steps of the process. It's very flexible. It's really requires a lot of innovation. And that's why using a serverless architecture where we can easily plug and play and also not have to pay for a lot of costs like EC2 instances is a great idea for my team. So that's what I do as a software engineer at Autodesk. But what I love about my job is that I can do different things. That's why I'm calling this like doing more. So Autodesk has a lot of focus and intentions behind diversity, inclusion, and belonging as a company because they recognize all the benefits that it has. So I volunteer with a grassroots group of other volunteers. We are all Autodesk people, but we also want to work on Autodesk implementing everything related to diversity and belonging in our organization. So I get to go to meetings 2-3 times in a quarter and also take action items for myself where I can drive forward initiatives that actually put into action what are the high-level goals and strategies that Autodesk sets as an enterprise. So here's a quote that you can find on Autodesk website. It says, we're building a workplace culture where everyone has equitable opportunities to succeed and contribute. Learn, celebrate, and grow with us to make diversity and belonging a reality across Autodesk. And here's the diversity and belonging website of Autodesk, which you can visit. So for me personally, when I see a company have all of these goals and initiatives towards diversity, my first question is how? You hear a lot of companies say, we want to increase the number of women in sales and women in technology roles by, let's say, like 15% in the next 2 years. So that sounds great. But the question is, how are you going to do that? Because the problem isn't just telling recruiters, hey, hire more women. There has to be actual structural change and a lot of incentive so that people can feel supported in their job instead of just being handed down a vague statement. So what I like about Autodesk is that we have a lot of specific intentions. For example, with diversity, we're thinking about who is in our workforce and what demographics do they represent. At every corner of a company or at every organization of a company, you will find, excuse me, different people who have different skill sets. And of course, because of who they are and maybe where they're located in the world, they will have different needs. And for inclusion, we're saying, how do the people in the workforce feel about the workplace and their place within it? So how do I feel about saying I'm part of Autodesk? And how do I feel about my job? That is not just about being a software engineer, but rather my specific experience as an Autodesk employee. And for belonging, we're asking, do people feel engaged and embraced by management, coworkers, and a broader business community? So for me personally, like I mentioned, I earned my computer science degree in 2021. That means I don't have a lot of years of experience under my belt. And I came into the workforce at a time where everything was virtual. Like we were all locked inside our houses. In California, the measures that they took was very excessive and very strict. So the transition that I took from being a student and then going into the workforce was very difficult. And I still to this day give people my story of how I came into tech. So for me, belonging is a very important part. And I'm really glad that Autodesk enables us to have organization-based volunteer groups that answer these questions, not just as Autodesk as a big picture, which would be a huge gray box for us, but for my organization and the people that are my coworkers. So here's a picture of last year's in-person annual event that we had for the Diversity and Belonging committee of my organization. So the motto of this organization is inspire a culture where diversity is celebrated, everyone feels a strong sense of belonging and can be their true selves. And that actually is a lot more specific than the quote that I read for you, because the quote that I read was basically Autodesk level DEI professionals saying, we have this vision for Autodesk. We want everyone to feel good. But then in our specific organization, we're coming in here and saying, we also want to amplify those goals, but we want to do it in a specific way. So the specific way that we do it is with 4 different work streams. You can think of them as 4 different subcommittees that take that the whole idea, and they make it into specific branches of actions that you can actually take. So the first one is recruitment and hiring. That means the volunteers in this group, they collaborate with the recruiters and the talent acquisition teams so that we can attract diverse candidates. And we're not just hiring people from universities that Autodesk has a long-lasting relationship with, but we're going to different universities, we're going to different events, and we're making sure that we're pushing for different people to come through the door so that we have diversity in all aspects. And then the second group is education and development. They work on enriching employees' understanding of diversity and belonging strategies in our organization specifically. And they do this by providing learning opportunities and doing trainings that would help people understand and get an idea of, if we were to practice diversity and belonging in our everyday job, in our language, and in different aspects, how does that look? The third group is the culture group. So they create a tailored development plan that ensures the organization has diversity in senior roles. So this is about promotion. Usually people who are the loudest voices in the room and they have the best connections with the executives and the board of directors, they usually have an easier way of climbing the ladder. But for the culture, what they do is they sit down and they put their heads together and they say, in our organization, if a woman wants to become a director or a senior, whatever, do they have the clear steps in on their career development plan in order to get there? And the fourth group, or the work stream that we do actionable diversity and belonging with, is marketing and communication. So the marketing and communication really promotes the activity of the bigger group as it aligns with Autodesk. I'm actually part of the marketing and communications group because I thought it would be a better fit for me and what my goals are as a software engineer to be involved with the marketing and communication aspect of diversity, belonging, and inclusion. Since the three other groups are doing amazing work and outstanding events and initiatives to actually implement what's being said at the very top level into real results for us. So that makes me kind of a person who is working with communication specialists. And that means people who are coming from communications backgrounds, journaling backgrounds, English majors, MBAs, and this broad spectrum of people that I personally wouldn't have the opportunity to work with if I were to just stay within my software engineering, super technical developmental team. So I'm able to grow my skill sets while driving change in Autodesk. Some of the things that we did in the past year, we implemented different groups within my organization that allowed people to come together, not just for work and projects, but over books that we like to read, over activities that we like to do. We also partnered with, similar to how Autodesk Foundation partnered with WeTech as a nonprofit, which is a very technical software engineering tech sort of organization. My diversity and belonging group, we partnered with nonprofits around Europe and Asia that work with high school students who want to know about non-traditional careers in tech. So that means introducing them to jobs at a tech company that has nothing to do with my title, which is being a software engineer, or even the more very common product manager or project manager that's for a technical team. Like I mentioned, we have teams that need project and product managers that have nothing to do with like software. We also partnered with a group in Ireland that helps underrepresented students that are in elementary school, middle school, and then high school to have mentors that are working professionals and they're located in different parts of the world closest to their time zone in Ireland so that they can get direction about and inspiration about what career they can choose. maybe it's finance, maybe it's journalism, maybe it's business and accounting, whatever that they wanted. The goal was to create that bridge from working professionals to kids from underrepresented school groups that would really need the motivation. And this effort actually has made me a lot happier, and I know that it has brought a lot of change within my organization. That just makes me super proud for being able to grow my skill sets and take part in different parts of Autodesk's initiatives. Are there any questions before I get to my last slide?
No question.
No question.
No question.
No questions. Okay, great. So, so the last slide is about connecting with you on LinkedIn. So apart from my work with Autodesk, because I got my degree from an American university, but my university is not very well known to the companies in America. So I work really hard to bring all the information I learned about getting a job in the tech to people that would need it the most. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I post a lot, and I would love for you, if you're interested in landing a job in tech, or you know someone who's interested in landing a job in tech, I would like to connect with you. My LinkedIn URL is F Saremi at the end, and I would love to connect with you and get you on my network. So if there are no questions, then this was my last slide. But we still have about 5 minutes for anything that comes to your mind.
Okay, I think you have a question. All right. Hi, Serge.
Yes, on.
It's on. Okay, hi, Fatem. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Okay, so my name is Esther. Thank you. Okay. So as the only woman, or yeah, the only lady working in my small team, what is your advice on how I can better communicate with, especially the software engineers on my team that are male? Like, from your experience, what advice would you give me? I am the product manager, but what advice would you give me on how best to communicate with them?
I see. So how to communicate with male software engineers?
Yes, more effectively. Yes, exactly.
I see. Well, I think that there are a lot of cultural aspects that affect, like, I'm not familiar with your culture, but I know from my culture, I'm from Iran, like I mentioned, but I'm also familiar with the California culture. So they have it slightly easier because the gender norms in California are not as pointed and not as defined. But I work with people that are not part of US, right? So I also have to navigate their cultural norms, because everyone, when you come to work, you bring your whole self, you bring your culture, you bring all of your predispositions with you. So in terms of communicating, I think you have to not be afraid of repeating yourself, and you shouldn't take offense if someone is either willingly or unwillingly isn't understanding you. I personally, when I first started, I found a lot of friction between my communication and my senior software engineers. And I always thought, oh, it's because I'm just fresh out of school and I'm not able to really communicate what I say. But then it was because I wasn't really able to navigate conflict. So conflict doesn't always have to be you fighting with someone. It might just be, I say something, you don't do it. Now, the part that they don't do it might be they don't understand, or something else. But in my opinion, it was easier for me to improve my communication skills in terms of being more clear, repeating myself as many times as it takes, and asking them clarifying questions of, does this make sense? do you have any question? Is there any part of this where you're not following? I think as a product manager, you should be really good at creating documentations and ticketing and, you know, sort of proof of what you're saying to people. So in a way, you're a little bit more ahead of me because as a software engineer, I don't have a lot of product manager skills. But I think the most important thing is to not be afraid to repeat yourself and not take it to heart if someone doesn't get it and doesn't maybe do it.
We have a question. So we have one more question. Next.
Hi, so I wanted to ask a question. If maybe you mentioned this and maybe I didn't hear you. So I wanted to ask, how do you balance your job as a software developer? And you're still doing this a lot of things concerning inclusivity and and diversity. So how do you balance this two different polar different work lines, right? As a software developer, you deal with a lot of technicalities. And now coming into things that has to do nothing to that, like how do you balance it? And when both jobs become so demanding, which do you prioritize?
Yeah, how can you got that?
So the question was that how do I prioritize the work I do with diversity and belonging group versus my actual technical work?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I would say that my diversity and belonging work, it kind of pushes outside of my 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. job. And I don't mind that because the meetings in terms of time commitment, the meetings that we have, it's once or twice a quarter. And because we are part of the same organization, we all know the cycles that everyone would be super busy in. So intentionally, during those times, it's quiet and the expectations are very low, which is what the beautiful thing about having organization-based diversity and belonging groups. So that means that we know each other's work schedule and we are not bounded by what the other teams are doing outside of our organization. So in that sense, I never had to make a decision between should I continue this PR or should I do this other thing? And I also am very intentional about what I commit my time to. So if I know that I don't have the skill set and I don't have I'm not the correct person to go and do, like, let's say something, I don't know, nothing comes to my mind, but obviously I don't overcommit. And I think all the volunteers of that group, they also don't overcommit. We try to use our time very smartly. But the bigger part is that we are passionate about driving change right now for ourselves because there is direction that's coming from enterprise level, but we want to make it happen for us right now. So it's actually becomes very rewarding to whatever, so that we can go outside of our 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So to create the action items, to finish the action items that we said we're able to do.
I don't know if that answered your question. Yes. Any other question?
I was gonna say I have a question for Fatem.
Yes.
Hi. Hi, team. Great presentation. I loved it. Good to see another Autodesker out here. So I do have a question about software engineering in this new AI space. What does that career progression look like? Because I have a lot of new friends that have graduated that do want to enter software engineering in this AI-driven space. And I wanted to know, what is the career progression look like, and what are some steps that you think you're taking to, I guess, stay ahead of the curve as AI is like evolving?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the beginning of my, when I was in university and I was looking for internships, I wasn't looking specifically for artificial intelligence engineer because that means people that are coming from mathematics background and they're coming from data science or a PhD background, right? I was looking for what we call machine learning ops, ML ops positions. So that's someone who is coming from computer science background, is able to create REST APIs, whether it's for a website or a mobile application, but is also just knowledgeable enough with how machine learning models work in order to incorporate it with your backend services. So I was a fan of using REST APIs, but if someone out there is like doing like SOAP APIs or whatever, it's the same thing. But the career progression is for me is first starting with understanding the fundamentals of backend engineering. That means like creating reliable services that are fast and they're correct. And then taking it the next step, which is how can I make this something, how can I incorporate a machine learning model, whether it's for maybe a recommendation engine, maybe it's a ChatGPT open API product that you integrate, right, with your own API, or maybe it's a classification or prediction. So just so that you have like another endpoint in your API that allows you to connect to a machine learning model. And that means you have an understanding of deploying your services so that they're always available and just a little bit of an understanding of scalability. So coming back, and then you can extend your skill sets to become a full stack engineer by knowing React or Angular, but it honestly doesn't really matter. The most important part is that you're able to create, you have that backend engineering fundamental knowledge, and then you can go forward. So right now there are a lot of like APIs that offer, like use like Azure API, like send me a photo, I'll send you the sentiment of the face in the photo, right? People can try to copy those projects on their own, and that would make a great resume project.
Right, awesome. Could you just to follow up, I just want to know, could you copy the API model to Janet? I know what, I'll just talk to you offline. I just have a bunch of questions. I'll just talk to you offline. But thank you for answering my question, Fatem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think with the rise in artificial intelligence, a lot of people think that, oh, developers will be out of work and whatever. But really, it's going to help us all do our work faster in the same way that I'm building software tools for non-technical people at Autodesk to have access to it. If we are able to write code, they can't. So we're just trying to help everyone get access to something that will help you do your work faster and
Right.
has you asking questions and spinning your own wheels less.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Fatem. This was very helpful. I will be in
Yeah.
contact. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Happy Women's History Month to all. Everyone looks great. I love all the colors, and I hope that everyone stays in touch through LinkedIn. And thank you, WeTech, for bringing us into this wonderful event that has been amplifying all the different voices and all the successful accomplishments of women in tech and what they've been able to achieve.
Thank you very much. Can we give you a round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys. Cheers.
Yeah. Parker, could you just go briefly to the deck where you shared your LinkedIn bio because people are looking forward to connecting.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you for that call out.
Awesome. So I believe everybody enjoyed that the LinkedIn session, and yeah, you can connect as well. So we'll be heading over to the next session now. But before that, we have a very few questions. And I also wanted to ask my own questions and let's see who were the people who were actually listening and paying attention. So I'll just ask two questions. Well,